Hello. Welcome to another installment of the Central American Group's podcast, in which experts discuss topics related to doing business in Costa Rica, El Salvador, and the rest of the region.
Hello and welcome to another installation of the Central American Group's informative podcasts. These are recordings in which we speak to individuals that are internal and external to the organization about things that are important to know in respect to doing business in Central America. Today, we are lucky to have Daniel Alvarez with us. He's with Cushman Wakefield in Costa Rica. I'd like to say hello, Daniel, and please introduce yourself and maybe give us a little information about your background.
Sure. Thanks for having us, Steve. So as you referenced, I'm the managing principal for Cushman Wakefield operations throughout the Central American region based out of San Jose, Costa Rica. I've been in this position for the past 5 years. And prior to that, I manage corporate real estate projects on a multi-market basis throughout the rest of Latin America. Based always out of San Jose, Costa Rica. So I did that for about 10 years. Now it's been 5 years working throughout Central America with Cushman being one of the global leaders in real estate services. So lots of growth, lots of dynamism in the market, and looking forward to keep on growing the operation in the region for the upcoming years.
That's great. Today we're going to talk about industrial real estate in Costa Rica. And we have several questions. First of all, I'd like to know if you could just give us an overview about the current size of the market for industrial real estate in Costa Rica.
Sure. So in terms of size, the industrial market in Costa Rica, it's roughly 6 million square meters of rentable space. This is pretty significant for the size of the country, right? Being a country of just 52,000 square kilometers and just a 5 million population. So it's pretty big again for the size of our economy, and it's because we have some key drivers for this specific sector, which we will go into more detail. But these are medical devices, advanced manufacturing, and we are a relevant logistics hub for the rest of the region as well. And all of these, let's say, three business lines are driving significant demand for the industrial sector.
Well, you mentioned that you've been in this business for several years now. Could you give us some information, from your perspective, how the industrial real estate market in Costa Rica has evolved over the last maybe 5 or 10 years?
So Costa Rica historically had been a agricultural and tourism economy. Within the, let's say, 90s and still early 2000s, from an industrial perspective, the main driver of that sector of the economy, it was a significant numbers of international companies established in the country for clothing manufacturing processes. So companies such as Hanes brands, for example, they had established several plants in Costa Rica, and they were producing clothing for all of the Americas from Costa Rica as one of their main hubs, given the competitiveness of our overall cost structure and the capabilities of the workforce at that point in time. However, throughout the years, we've seen a accelerated pace of disruption and evolution in the industrial market. And we are not that competitive from a overall cost perspective for these type of, let's say, unsophisticated operations. So the economy, it's now way more what we call a added value economy and industrial sector, where we have developed a significant operations in those three streams that I was referencing. Medical devices being one of the main streams, advanced manufacturing, and then a logistics hub for the Latin American region as well. And clearly, this is the increase in the industrial market. It's just a result of all the efforts that have been led and driven by our leaders in the country to prepare the workforce for these highly sophisticated tasks and allowing Costa Rica as of today to be consolidated probably as one of the main clusters in all of Latin America for advanced manufacturing and medical devices.
Can you maybe get a little bit deeper into the reasons that this evolution in industrial real estate market in Costa Rica has developed this way?
Yes, so I think international companies are looking for a number of things when they are looking to establish manufacturing operations outside of their main countries. Probably the first one, it's a competitive economic context, right? So in Costa Rica, we've been able to develop a very, very competitive economy where the ease of doing business, it's been getting better year over year, where we have a very, very stable democracy, where we have a very stable currency, where from a political perspective, we haven't had major disruptions, nor from a social perspective for a significant number of years now. So all of this stability and continuous economical growth, it generates a feeling of certainty for international players investing in the country. Right? So I think that's one of the main drivers. Then on top of that, we also offer what we call the free trade zone regime that many other Latin American countries offer with different regulations as well, which generates significant tax advantages for foreign direct investment, right? So all this type of operations, manufacturing in Costa Rica and then exporting to the rest of the world will see significant financial upsides when they have this tax advantages, right? And the tax advantages will vary depending on the type of operation and on the timing for the investments and a number of variables. But from a high level perspective, I'd say that it's probably one of the most attractive and aggressive regimes throughout that time for these type of operations.
With respect to individual companies that are taking up space in the industrial real estate market in Costa Rica, can you say what type of company would be a key player in your country?
Well, I think there are various key players. I do have to reference Intel Corporation as a pioneer in our country and probably one of the most significant players that opened the eyes of many other U.S. corporations for Costa Rica. They were one of the, let's say, first big players entering the market with a very, very, very significant investments, and that took place more than 20 years ago now. And there is still a very significant player in, let's say, in the advanced manufacturing and mostly now research and development in the country. So they're an important reference. And then from a medical devices perspective, we have a high number of the leading companies established in Costa Rica. So names such as Boston Scientific, Abbott Medical, Philips, Hospira, Bayer, all of these companies, they have important operations in Costa Rica and have used the country as one of their main hubs for the region.
In terms of the territorial distribution of the industrial real estate market in Costa Rica, we know that there are quite a few free zones like the ones that you just mentioned in the capital. But can you tell us a little bit about that area as well as the outskirts of San Jose or outside of urban areas in general?
Yeah, so most of the development as of today has taken place in what we call the greater metropolitan area. The greater metropolitan area is composed out of four main provinces, and probably the one province that has had the most accelerated growth for the past 10 years, it's Alajuela. Alajuela is where we have our Juan Santa Maria International Airport, and specifically there's an industrial corridor within Alajuela by the name of El Coyol. El Coyol, it's the main cluster in the country for industrial operations. On recent years, many medical devices companies are being established in the eastern part of the greater metropolitan area in a province by the name of Cartago. So Cartago is seeing very significant growth as well. I think these two locations have strategic locations from an overall supply chain perspective, and lots of very qualified labor force in a near proximity. So this has allowed them to grow the industrial sector. And as we speak, we're starting now to see a significant opportunity for developments outside of the greater metropolitan area. CINDE, which is our investment promotion agency, it's now working on special incentives to promote investments outside of the GMA. So the idea is to have a more diversified risk structure, and reach other populations and workforces that they do not have much opportunities for economic development as of today. And we do see tremendous opportunity on this initiative. So hopefully in the upcoming 5 or 10 years, we'll see much more growth outside of the greater metropolitan area as well.
Yes, we're noticing interest. The Central American Group, as you may know, is working, developing its Green Park Free Zone in Costa Rica. And, we're seeing that being in proximity to Juan Santa Maria Airport is basically something that prospective customers find quite useful. So, as far as growth within the capital, we're seeing movement in terms of our development as well. But, if you could tell us a little bit with some anticipation, how does the 2020 market for industrial real estate in Costa Rica look from your perspective?
So I think it's a positive outlook. The fundamentals of the industrial sector are pretty healthy. We are seeing an economy, local economy, growing at 2 to 3% on a high level perspective from a GDP perspective, right? And nonetheless, we do see the free trade zone regime sector growing in between 9 to 11% year over year. So being the free trade zone sector, the main demand for industrial product, it's really going to be a good year for both medical devices and advanced manufacturing. And as you clearly know, the logistics segment, it's just a result of these two other sectors, right? The one sector that it's probably a bit more uncertain, it's logistics operations related to the local consumer, given that, as I just referenced, the local economy is growing not such an as good as the FDI sector, right? So we'll see how that specific logistics sector related its local economy goes. But on a general basis, it should be a good year, pretty stable, and with very similar absorption rates than the ones we've seen for the past 12 months.
Specifically, what kind of opportunities are in the industrial market for real estate in Costa Rica, and what type of companies could benefit from them?
So I think the opportunities are for developers and users as well to keep on sophisticating their business models in the country. our main objective is to have Costa Rica positioned and developed as a added value economy for this type of operations. So we see a lot of opportunity on the research and development segment. Having all these companies with current production lines already established in the country, now adding research and development lines to their already established operations in Costa Rica. We've seen the success of many clients in this sector for R&D operations, and we think it's probably one of the segments where there might be more upside for all the players in the market.
Do you see any trends that stand out in the industrial real estate market in Costa Rica that will likely shape its future?
I would summarize that in two: sophistication, right? It's a highly sophisticated market, which is becoming more sophisticated year over year based on the type of operations that are being established in the country. So I think Costa Rica, it's at the center of what's next, right? And it's a country that has clearly showed its capacity to adapt to trends on a very rapid pace, and that's one of the main added values of this small economy that has allowed Costa Rica to be as competitive as it is in the Latin American region.
Daniel, we generate typically some questions from these discussions. People that listen want more detail, typically. How would a listener who has questions that haven't been covered in this podcast contact you?
So they can reach us via email. So my personal email, it's open for any questions. So that would be daniel.alvarez@ab-latam.com. So I repeated, that's daniel.alvarez@ab-latam.com. So they can send me an email, and I'll be more than glad to go over any specific questions they might have.
Well, this has been very informative, and I want to thank you for joining us. And we want to wish you good luck for the remainder of this year and for 2020.
Thanks for having me, Steve, and all the best for the group with all the different projects, and of course with Green Park specifically in Costa Rica. We know it's going to be a very successful project so we look forward to keep on partnering. And thanks for having us.
Thank you, and a great day, Daniel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Sign up to receive the Central American Group's quarterly newsletter by visiting www.thecentralamericangroup.com.